What I want you to do right now is learn how to update firmware of the motor. Now, don't go trying to do it yet. Let me explain what happens. In our processor, when it boots up, it goes into something called a bootloader. The bootloader is core code inside the processor that we wrote that looks for firmware, and then after it gets to that level, it starts running the firmware and operates the motor normally for everyone in this room, how you would see the motor operate. If there's no firmware in this motor, you will not be able to communicate with it normally. You'll see flashing LEDs and a watchdog fault and all this other mess, and you won't be able to use it. No one in this room should ever see that happen. Well, I say no one. There's a few guys in here that work in production that might. But otherwise, no one should ever see that happen. Okay? To update firmware, we basically go at the binary level at a higher baud rate, at about 38.4K baud, and we download this hex file, or a hex file in this case. Okay? While downloading, you can't do anything else with that motor. So during the firmware process, we entity code in the motor that's running. Any mode of operation stops. The motor is turned off. When I say turn off, the drive stage is turned off. And it begins to download the firmware to the motor. At the tail end of the download, it does a processor reset. It basically goes offline, resets the processor, and powers it back up as if you had unplugged and plugged it back in. So when you go to download the firmware, at the tail end of it, you will lose communications with that motor. And then you'll have to go back into SMI and readdress and refine that motor.